I've never had a drop of alcohol or a drug in my life. I've prayed 5 times a day for 17 years straight. So if I ever thought about it, I'm like, no. Faith was always that blocking barrier. I think I've trained consistently since I was 10 years old, whether it be running, whether it be swimming, whether it was soccer. I've always been doing something from a young age. So I think that once you get into a habit of doing something, I feel like it'd be very unnatural for me not to train right now. Also, our religion tells us to be healthy and look after our body. It's very important for Muslims to take care of themselves. When I was training in America, I walked into a gym full of Cubans and Dominican Republicans, fighters that were world champions. And I said, hello, hey brother, how you doing? We're in the same team now. They just looked at me and looked away. And my coach said to me, listen, these guys, they come from the gutter. They have to fight to survive. If you want to get their respect, you have to fight. When I won my WBO title first, I got world ranked. I reached the top 15 in the world at that point, and then WBA after that, and then IBF, and I got to number 4 in the world. They meant everything at that point because they got me to where I wanted to be. Religion has shaped my whole life and has really gotten me to the point that I'm at today. I feel like, especially being based in America, being around celebrities and so many A-listers and being around that crowd, if you don't have Deen, then it's really easy to sway. And my personality as a person is I've got a very strong mindset. So if I don't want to do something, nobody can convince me to do it. My goal was always to be a good role model, somebody that my children can be proud of.
What those titles meant to you when you won them versus what they mean to you now as a mature adult who has a life outside of boxing. Do they still mean what they meant to you back then? Welcome to the Diet Doctor podcast, where we discuss the science of nutrition and high performance, offering practical tools for everyday life. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to another episode of the Diet Doctor podcast. It's a special episode. I've got a very dear friend with me, a boxer, Billel Dib, WBA Oceania and IBF Australasian champion, also WBO Oriental champion. And most importantly, this being a health and wellness podcast, we're always interested in how people juggle the obstacles that occur in a very, very specific sport like boxing that involves weight cutting, etc. And how do you juggle that? How do you juggle faith? How do you juggle remaining healthy in a very toxic sport such as an impact sport like boxing? Assalamu alaikum, jazakallah khairan for coming on, Billel. Appreciate it, really.
Appreciate it.
I know that you're not a local Sydney. You're a Queenslander, and you're not here often. Proud Queenslander. So we had to take advantage of the time that you were here. Jazakallah khairan. The titles, I know that as you get older and you're still young and people will probably struggle to guess your age. That's why your nickname is Babyface. But what those titles meant to you when you won them versus what they mean to you now as a mature, adult, successful businessman who travels, has clients, has a life outside of boxing. What's the weight of these titles? Do they still mean what they meant to you back then?
I think so. They meant a lot back then, obviously.
Everything.
It was the steps to get to where I wanted to get to in my career. I didn't achieve everything that I wanted to do in my career, but they were the stepping ladders to get to where I wanted. And as I won each individually, when I first won the Australian title, I was over the moon. But I was more excited about what the future would bring after I won that title. Then when I won I think it was the WBO title first, I got world ranked. I reached the top 15 in the world at that point. And then WBA after that, and then IBF, and I got to number 4 in the world. So they meant everything at that point because they got me to where I wanted to be.
So a lot of people who don't know or don't understand the concept of these federations and what these acronyms mean in boxing. The main federations are the IBF, WBA, WBO, and WBC.
That's right, yeah.
So there are other federations, but the credibility that is associated with them is not the same.
No, definitely not.
And it takes quite a bit of work to be ranked in these 4 federations.
Yeah.
Would you say one of them or 2 of them or 3 of them are better than or more difficult than the others to be ranked in?
To be honest, it just depends on the time. It depends which fighters are in the division at which time. It really just depends on when.
It's very different to MMA where everyone's sort of under one umbrella.
Well, they're trying to do that now with boxing.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Trying to merge the federations?
Well, with the Turkey, the Saudi Arabian.
Oh, the unifications.
Yeah, with Dennaoui, they just started their own. So they're trying to create this one boxing organization.
Do you think it's a good thing?
I think he's involved Dana White as well.
Yeah. Do you think it's a good
I don't
thing,
think it will. I could be totally wrong, but I don't think it will work 100% because boxers choose. With UFC, they're used to having no choice. You fight.
Dictated. I was just about to ask you. Do you think that that will ever see a time in boxing where, you know, a fighter would have to be fighting fighter number B and C would have to fight D?
I just don't think.
You think we'll ever get to see
it, but they might because, for example, they've announced some fights recently that I didn't think would happen, and obviously it's money that is the motive for a lot of these guys taking fights now that I never thought they would take. So if the Saudi Arabian keeps throwing out crazy money to everybody, it might happen. But
so you don't think they'll ever be in a position whereby they have to? I know it's probably a little bit more lenient now than it was in the UFC in the early days, but in the early days, you had no bloody choice.
Yeah.
In MMA, you had to fight. If you wanted to be the undisputed champion of that weight division, you had to fight him. And if the fans wanted to see it, even if it was champion not fighting fighter ranked number 1 or fighter ranked number 2, could be fighter ranked number 5. But stylistically, that's what the fans want.
From a hardcore fighter's perspective, that's great. But from a manager's perspective and a fighter's perspective, in terms of making money and so on, it's not great.
It's not great.
No.
Yeah, it's
with all the different belts, it means more money opportunities for fighters, and that's why I saw a Robert Garcia interview the other day, and he said, "Listen, as a manager, I would rather there be many titles like there are at the moment, rather than one,
and leave it as it is,
because everyone makes money. There's more money to be made that way."
Yeah. I didn't think of it that way, and you're right though. When it gets to that level, people are always going to tune in.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But it also depends on who is the champion or who are the top 5 or who are the top 10 in said federation at that given time in history.
Yeah.
But the unifications of that would be exciting to see. Was there anything that stood out, you think? What was the toughest belt that you had to fight for? Not just in terms of the opponent, but the journey as well.
It's a tough question because the toughest fight that I had for a belt wasn't the most meaningful belt.
Really?
It was probably my Australian title, which was my first title.
That was the toughest?
Probably.
Yeah.
I was more of a novice. I was early in my career. I think I won the Australian title in my 8th fight only. I had a very low or minimal amateur background. And I fought a guy from South Korea who had, I think, 300-400 amateur fights and was very experienced. So it was a tough fight. We had to make a lot of adjustments in the fight during the time. I remember going back in the 3rd round and I started boxing the fight, like boxing early rounds, and it wasn't working. The guy was catching me in between shots and so on. I got back to the corner and my coach yelled at me, Billy Hussein yelled at me, and he said, "Listen, it's not working. Boxing's not working. Put your hands up and bully this guy."
Yeah.
So we had to completely change strategies. I tried it in the 4th round. I didn't do it enough. I came back in the 5th round, or after the 4th round, I got blasted again in the corner. And he said, "If you want to win this fight, you better put your hands up."
Yeah.
It was a lot more explicit than that, but
a lot more colourful language.
Yeah, quite a lot more. It was on TV as well, so everyone on TV heard it. Yeah, but he blasted me.
And it's out of character for Billy Hussein too.
But it's what I need.
Yeah,
I need someone in the corner. I needed that. I think Billy was great for me in the corner when he did that, and he understood my personality. If he was soft with me, I wouldn't have really.
It's like when what's his? I think it was Mike Tyson's trainer at one point.
Yeah,
that old fella. What's his name?
Casimiro.
Not Casimiro. The other guy that's
Teddy Atlas.
Teddy Atlas.
Yeah.
When he yelled at Timothy Bradley,
firefighter,
and that changed everything.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah,
like people still watch that.
Yeah,
like,
I watch that all the time.
Yeah, I just still watch that on YouTube Shorts.
Yeah.
Just
I love it.
It's brilliant.
I sent that to my brother the other day.
You need something. You just need that. Sometimes you need that. But
every fighter is different. Every fighter reacts differently. I needed someone to slap me and tell me to get up and like.
That's probably because you got a calm demeanor. So if someone who's calm, to bring that fire out of you, you'd need that. And I've seen Billy Hussein adapt accordingly.
Yeah, Billy Hussein probably. I've had a few coaches in my career, and he's definitely the best coach in the corner.
Yeah, I've seen
best at reading a fight.
Yeah, I've seen him. I've seen him do some magic, mashallah.
Yeah,
he's very, very skilled. That comes down to experience.
Yeah,
he's got
around for a long time. Yeah,
tremendous amount of experience.
But also, it's him as a person. I've had a lot of. All my coaches have been very experienced.
Yeah, he
coaches
cares.
in the States, and not that they weren't great. They were very good coaches, and they all had their special things that they were good at. But in terms of who was probably the best in the corner and reading a fight, was probably Billy.
And does that happen often where you'd have to change game plans? Does that come down to the preparation? Because obviously you'd be watching tape on this guy.
Yeah.
So you're watching tape on him, you rock up and what he just decided to go with a completely different game plan. That
Sometimes you watch a press conference and a fighter says to the other fighter, everybody thinks everybody thinks that when you get in there, you're going to be able to do this to me and you're going to be able to do that to me watching tape.
Yeah.
And they say, but when you get in there, it's a totally different ball game.
Yeah.
You ever heard fighters say that?
Yeah, of course.
It's reality because you watch tape of somebody.
Tyson said it. Yeah. Mayweather used to say that.
You watch tape of somebody and then you think, this guy's too slow, or this guy's, I'm going to be able to do this to him. I'm going to be able to feint on him and he'll fall for it and so on. And then you get in there and then you throw the feint and he like slips and hits you or something and you're like, shit, I didn't think he was that crafty.
Yeah.
And then you have to adapt. And that's the difference between basic fighters, good fighters, elite fighters.
Experience, yeah.
And if you can't adapt, then you stay at the level you're at.
It's used a lot in MMA as a lure. Like they'll say, oh, you know what? He thinks that I'm going to wrestle.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to wrestle. I'm going to strike. When he's got no intention to strike. So he's going to turn it into a grappling match.
Yeah.
But you're not exactly going to give away. Exactly.
Yeah.
But what I was interested in asking you also is something that I'll go back a little bit. Faith. Mm-hmm. We've sort of both made some changes probably in the last 5 to 10 years, yourself probably even earlier, with regards to where we position faith on the priority list. Like faith for me, alhamdulillah, is number one. The dawah space comes first. And I've seen that become more and more important to you. It was always there with you, alhamdulillah. Yeah. You come from a very good family. Dad's a great guy, you got good siblings, but it's I've seen it become more and more important in your life. And I say this to a lot of people, that when you go down that path, a lot of people think your problems are going to go away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't tell you your problems are going to go away. But listening to him means that you'll have more coping mechanisms. Like Islam, the deen gives you more coping mechanisms to deal with it. Do you feel like that contributed to more success as you went along your career?
I think religion has shaped my whole life and has really gotten me. I'm not perfect, obviously, but it's gotten me to the point that I'm at today. I feel like, especially being based in America and all the trips back and forth from America and being around so many even celebrities and so many A-listers and just being around that type of
crowd,
that type of crowd overseas in the States and so on. My manager over there and different people would take me to like DJ Khaled's house, or we would associate with celebrities and so on. And just being around that crowd, it really, if you don't have deen, then it's really easy to sway. And my personality as a person is I've got a very strong mindset. So if I don't want to do something, nobody can convince me to do it. So just,
but it was faith that,
because faith would always. I would always, if I ever had a thought, you know what, I've never had a drop of alcohol or a drug in my life. So if I ever even thought about it, I've prayed 5 times a day for 17 years straight. I haven't missed a prayer for 17 years straight. So if I ever thought about it, I'm like, no, I'm going to pray tonight before I get home or when I get home.
Doesn't make sense.
It never really, faith was always that blocking barrier.
Me, I went through a similar journey, but similar yet different. I was not a boxing world champion, and I wasn't lured. I wasn't in that scene because of the same reason. You were in that scene because people wanted to rub shoulders with whoever was champion at the time. For myself, it was, I remember being at the BET Awards with Ray J, who's still a very close friend of mine, and he wants to come on the podcast soon, inshallah. I'll get him on Zoom. But it wasn't, and it's sad for me to say that it wasn't deen, because I didn't know much about deen. I was praying, but I didn't know anything about deen. So it wasn't deen that would pull me away. It would be like, I've got to get up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. and train. I've worked this hard for this long to get here. It was a health and wellness thing. Yeah. Now it's obviously the deen first. This is haram, this halal. It's easier to navigate. And also we spent so much time on, investing in your health and your well-being. You don't want to flush it down the toilet with, an opportunity like that. I always said that if I got the gig of trainer of Biggest Loser USA, who knows, what sort of tribulations I would have been going through now. The parties that you get invited to and all the distractions that come with it. And speaking of DJ Khaled, I think he's probably got the one of the worst manners out of worst manners out of all of the celebrities that I've met. He was at the dinner table at the dinner that we had after the BET Awards, and he was on the same table. It was probably about eight of us, maybe 10 of us, including the lady who founded the BET Awards. And I just remember he just wouldn't get off his phone and make eye contact with anyone, and it just really annoyed me. But
I feel like if I saw him today, I would tell him how little I think of him.
Yeah, it's just the stuff that they, I don't want to get sidetracked and talk about what's happening. We always remember our brothers and sisters and the suffering that they're going through overseas. But you would think that somebody with a platform like that would have an outspoken voice. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us hidayah, grant him and all of us guidance in that department. I think without a doubt, people would be interested in what a prep would look like. Like for you, was it an 8-week prep? Was it a 10-week prep? For every boxer, it's different.
Yeah.
How much emphasis did you place on nutrition? Because I know that you always, you had a holistic approach from the start. When I first met you, you always had a balanced lifestyle. You didn't sort of overly rely on just the boxing or just the nutrition or just the strength and conditioning. It was sort of a good, well-rounded approach.
Yeah. So I think my nutrition was great when I worked with you early in my career.
Alhamdulillah.
Because I learnt, I think, majority of what I knew.
And applied thereon.
Yeah. But I kind of went through phases. So because it was so hard for me to get down to my weight division, super featherweight, I'm a fairly big super featherweight.
Yeah.
I'm probably one of the biggest super featherweights.
I remember after you'd weigh in, you'd look like a bully. Yeah.
So I would struggle to get down in weight. And I think because I would struggle so hard, my body would crave sugar and sweets. I could be wrong, but
your blood sugar would drop because you're not having enough your structure is not designed to be. It's designed to be light, but not that light.
Yeah, I was very light, and I would deplete. I would, really dehydrate myself and really have to really struggle to get down, especially the last 2-3 days before the weigh-in. So because of that, I feel like as soon as fights were off, or even during camp, a lot of times, for example, some examples, when I was fighting in the States and I was living in Miami in America, I had a friend of mine come visit me, Ibi, from Australia. And he came and stayed with me in my unit in Miami for a bit.
Ibi from Billy Hussein's?
Yeah.
I know Ibi. Yeah, I know Ibi.
Ibi came and stayed with me for a while. And he would, I would go sparring in the gym, and say I'd have like a bad day in the gym or sparring in the gym or whatever. Walmart was right next to my gym. I'd go to Walmart and I'd get Laffy Taffies. They were my favorite. They were my addiction. Yeah, couldn't get them in Australia back then. So I'd get Laffy Taffies and I'd eat a whole packet on the way home. I'd get a packet and I'd hide it under my pillow.
Comfort eat.
And Ibi would go into my room sometimes when I wasn't there, and he'd find Laffy Taffies under my pillow or in my cupboard. And he'd call me and tell me, Bill, you're fighting, you're number 4 in the world, you got a massive fight coming up, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, no, it's all right. I had them last week. And I would hide and try and eat sweets to comfort myself during camp. So that obviously made my weight cut harder. But then as my career progressed and I got further into my career and I got older, mentally I aged as well. My diet was as strict as anybody. I actually witnessed you
adapting, the stuff that we did.
Yeah,
you'd use the same concepts and principles, but you'd manipulate them a little bit based on the circumstances, because no 2 fight preps are the same. That's what a lot of people don't understand. What you use to prep from a nutrition perspective for this fight will not work, and a lot of people think that it will.
No,
and that's where a lot of boxers I noticed in Australia. I want to pay a nutritionist a one-off, and I'll get a diet plan off them, and I'll use that for the rest of my career.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work
because your body knows it will plateau, and it doesn't naturally want to be that light. So it will do everything it can to preserve you dropping that tissue, that weight that it does not want to drop. I've seen it many, many times.
And that's in my last ever camp, I worked with you again.
Yeah,
after a long break. We hadn't worked together for a long time.
Correct.
And during that camp, I noticed that happening to myself. And then you gave me certain tips. And
we had to manipulate things.
That's right,
because what worked didn't work again. But that's not just for boxing. That's for not just weight cutting disorder. That works with physique contests. People who are dieting for a physique contest. What got you to, 5.2% body fat won't work again the second time.
Yeah.
Because your body adapts. That's one of the reasons why I left competitive physique contests. It's not because I got out of shape. I just got sick of the food.
Yeah.
5 meals didn't work anymore, so you have to have 7.
The body is very interesting.
Then 9 meals. Then when it got to 11 meals, I was like, this is not fun. On your cheat day, you just want to not see food. But it's very common with the comfort eating, especially when it comes to boxers. When I go through anxiety, I don't eat. I noticed that with combat athletes like yourself, when they go through a little bit of a hurdle, they tend to comfort themselves
I did that a lot
calories.
during my career. Yeah, early in my career and mid my career, even when I was rated top as high as I was in the world, I did that a bit. But later on, over the last 5 years of my career, I was as strict as anything. I would never eat for 8 weeks. If I was in camp for 8 weeks or even 12 weeks, I would monitor my weight every single day. I had a diary of my weight. So every morning I'd get up, I'd weigh myself as soon as I wake up in the morning. I would write that down.
Journal everything.
Every day, absolutely everything. Yeah. What I would eat every single day, I would journal it. My breakfast and lunch was nearly the same every single day.
Yeah.
And I would tweak my dinners. And I'd make small adjustments to my breakfast or so on. But they were basically the same nearly every single day for camp, except my dinner was different every day.
Was that based on what happened during the day in terms of whether you were holding more water that day or you felt like weight wasn't shifting?
Yeah.
So you'd manipulate dinner?
I would just tweak and change and so on. And also because I would break it up into fish, chicken, and meats for dinner and so on over the course of the week. But then
fish works fantastically well for cutting weight.
Fish was great for cutting weight.
I would use that. I remember the last couple of comps that I did because I was never going to be the biggest on stage and competing in an era where there was no weight cuts and no weight division. Sorry, I noticed that fish would just get great. You because the calories being so low for the same amount of weight, same amount of protein that you're getting. Easy on the digestive system. And the oils in fish, I don't know for a lot of people, many people know this, but the oils in fish are not just good for your visceral fat, the fat that's around the organ, but it's good for subcutaneous fat. It's got this effect of making the fat that's on your skin, like your skin sort of becomes very thin as you get leaner and leaner, and it becomes almost translucent. Yeah. And it's just, it's got a brilliant effect.
Yeah, I noticed fish would be great during camps, but it didn't have the same mental effect. I used to look forward to eating like a steak. It'd make me feel more full.
Because you're satiated.
Because I'm not allowed to eat everything else. And I think beforehand, before I got to that point where I said to myself, I really need to knuckle down on my diet as I'm getting older and so on and so on. It's getting harder to cut weight. Yeah. I didn't move up weight divisions. For 15 years, I was the same weight division, which is very tough.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that. Yeah, everyone just gradually
like maybe
moves
I
up.
should have, if I look back at my career, I feel like at some point, maybe I should have gone up to lightweight. I think I would have had...
Do you think you'd still be boxing if that was the case?
No, after my American visa was cancelled, I think that changed the trajectory of my career.
The landscape.
Yeah, so regardless, I think that had a huge impact on my career.
But just the direction that you would have went in terms of the titles that you would have chased or the opponents that you would have faced.
Possibly.
Yeah, and the weight cuts would have been
I really don't know. Because
less arduous.
I had great opportunities, world title opportunities and massive fights, but I just couldn't go because of my visa. So regardless of what weight division I was in, I still had great opportunities. But... I don't think I've seen many people stay in a said weight category, especially in boxing, as the body naturally matures and gets bigger. Yeah, see, in hindsight, I wish I say that I wish I moved up a division, but I mean, whatever happens, happened.
What's motivated you to stay in shape and healthy post-career? Because I think we're talking about we won't mention names, but some retired boxers from the past. Yeah. And what they used to fight at and what they walk around at now. Yeah. And it is quite literally more than times 2 their body weight. Yeah, so the boxer that fought at 55 or 60 kilos is walking around at over 120 kilograms.
That's crazy.
And they're not, if they were fighting it once upon a time at 55, you know that they're not the tallest fella in the world. Yeah. And it's just nuts. Is it your professional career, your faith, because mashallah, you're successful in the professional realm, but is it faith? What has kept you from falling down that rabbit hole?
I think mindset. Like I said earlier, I've got a strong mental capacity in that sense, and I've always told myself that when I retire, I'm going to put on a bit of weight in terms of muscle, because
healthy weight.
Yeah, healthy weight. I've been thin my whole life, and I think I've trained consistently since I was 10 years old. I've been in the gym doing some sort of sports, even younger than 10 years old, maybe 8 years old. I've been training, doing some form of athletic competition.
Yeah.
Whether it be running, I was in the Queensland running squad. Whether it be swimming, I was in the Queensland swimming squad.
I didn't know.
Whether it was soccer, I played soccer for 6 years. Boxing, I've always been doing something from a young age. So I think that once you get into a habit of doing something, I feel like it'd be very unnatural for me not to train right now. Also, our religion tells us to be healthy and look after our body and
Correct.
so on.
إن لبدنك عليك حق.
So I think it's very important for Muslims to take care of themselves. And also, I have children. I want to be a good example to my children.
I was just about to say that, like, how detrimental is it? Because a lot of kids, we work with schools. I used to be a school teacher. We had an event. We had events the last couple of days with White Flame in the speaking arrangements. I had a lot of young guys, 15, 16, 17, come up to me afterwards and say, I do this sport, I do that sport. What should I eat? What supplements should I take? Knowing that these kids are looking and watching a career such as yours or the individual that is gaining the weight, like it's an amana. It's not just...
Yeah, for sure.
It's not just for yourself. It's not just for your own kids, because by default, you're a public figure and there's a bunch of kids that are watching your career while you are active as well as post. So how do you justify that? Like, they're going to look at you and think, okay, it's okay to become overweight after I retire.
Yeah.
It's okay to become unhealthy. It's okay to start smoking.
Yeah. See monkey do. My children now, my son's 15, my oldest is 15, and my son, 11-year-old.
Mashallah.
They're very healthy. They're very health conscious because monkey see, monkey do. They've seen me my whole life.
They'll do as you do, not as you say.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So they, my eldest son, he, eats oats every morning, and I don't think you see many 15-year-olds. He's been doing that for a couple of years now. I don't think you see
He probably likes sushi too, like my son.
Yeah. Back when he was 12, 13, he was getting up in the morning, making overnight oats and eating that in the mornings. And
that's brilliant.
But that's just because it's what he's been around his whole life.
It's taste buds too. Like a child's taste buds will acclimate according to what they're exposed to.
Yeah.
If from the moment that they're born, they're eating Happy Meals, and everything that goes into their mouth has 15 to 30 ingredients, they don't even know what food tastes like anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, this doesn't taste. I don't like this. Because one of the questions I ask in the consultation interview is, are there any foods, not that you're intolerant to, but that you refuse to eat?
Yeah.
The list is big. I refuse to eat this. I refuse to eat that. And they're all good foods that actually taste good. But because your taste buds, you didn't give your taste buds an opportunity to enjoy these. You don't even know what single food items taste like anymore.
No, it's also, that's 100% true, because I'll tell my daughter she's eating chicken and she's eating fish. I don't want to eat fish. No problem, here's chicken.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is amazing, Papa.
Yeah.
But it's fish. So it's
perception.
Yeah.
But it's acclimating their taste buds.
Yeah.
I remember my son, I'd be able to go grocery shopping for an hour or two, as long as I gave him a carrot to munch on while he was sitting in the trolley.
He's happy. Yeah.
That was and then when they grow up, they just can't do candy bars and chocolates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Don't desire them, but they will do as you do, not as you say. It'd be awesome to say. I'm not sure how active you are in the community in Queensland, but it'd be great to see this sort of information shared with, say, the local schools and stuff like that. Do you do any community work at the moment?
I have.
In the past?
Yeah, I've done like work overseas and so on as well. With the rehab center that we built in Lebanon.
Oh, mashallah.
For the refugees and so on.
Yeah.
We've done that, and then I've spoken at different schools in Sydney.
Yeah.
Probably the most recent one, which was a couple of years ago now, while I was still fighting, was Belmore. I've been asked to go to a number of schools and speak to children at the schools and so on. I've done that. I've been asked to go to schools in the Gold Coast. I haven't done it for a couple of years now.
Is it something
I've been traveling so much with my businesses now?
Because your work is not just based in Sydney. You're based in...
I'm in Gold Coast, Sydney, and also in Dubai.
In Dubai as well. So it makes it difficult. But the rewarding feeling that you get, that intrinsic reward that you get from,
So I get a lot of kids hitting me up on social media, like younger children and so on. I speak to all of them. I'll give them all advice, or I'll communicate with all of them because it makes them feel good.
Give them the time of day. Billel replied to me, etc. But do you see that becoming or taking a larger chunk of your life as you progress in your career and, business sort of starts to take care of itself almost? Do you see yourself going down that space? of speaking and
I haven't really
sharing.
thought about it, to be honest. I haven't really thought too much about doing that in the future.
I think we need a book first.
What's that?
We need a book.
You need a book?
Yeah, we need a
book.
book.
Write a book?
Yeah. We need a book.
Yeah, I've never thought about things like that, to be very honest with you. I've always been open to speaking with. I love children, and I love to help children. That's what. Hence, I had children so young. I've always wanted children. So I'd love to be there to guide and to help children and make some sort or have some sort of significant impact in their lives and so on. So I'd always be open to it.
I think there's some programs that I'm getting involved in Dubai and some of the big Islamic schools like Next Generation there. I think they'd love to have someone like yourself there because they're really, really into their sports.
Yeah. They are.
They're
they're getting more
active.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, they're super into their sports. Both mum and dad are Lebanese, yeah?
Yeah. Well, Syrian Lebanese.
Syrian Lebanese. The food is very similar. The food is very rich. Did it offend the parents, the family, sometimes when you were cutting weight, or they were on side?
My parents are very health conscious.
Yeah, I noticed your dad's super health conscious.
So was my mum. And my parents aren't the typical Arabs.
Yeah.
Aren't the typical Arab family.
Most Queenslanders are very different. The Lebanese community in Queensland is very different.
We're from Sydney originally.
Really?
Yeah, I was born in Sydney. But my dad and all my family's in Sydney. Everyone's here.
Your dad's, mashallah, very health conscious.
My dad made the decision to move us when we were young to Queensland. But my dad doesn't eat sugar, doesn't eat any lollies or any sweets or anything like that. My dad I've never seen him drink soft drink. He doesn't eat chocolates and ice creams and for
20 years, I don't think I saw him gain any weight. And mashallah, like from the days at Billy Hussein's boxing at the LMA upstairs, when he'd come there, and then I saw him at the last fight.
He's 68 years old and he's got a six pack.
Mashallah. Yeah, mashallah.
So he trains, and my mum and my dad go to the gym together every single day. So my dad,
really,
every day. So during my career, me dieting and so on, it
wasn't
like,
all.
No, because even when my mum cooks Lebanese food and Arab food, it's like minimal butter or minimal oils, and it's all health conscious. Every health substitute that she can put, she does that regardless of my career or not my career. And also, I would always eat my own food anyway during camp. So, but even out of camp, if I was eating at my parents' house or whatever it may be, I don't put on any weight. Everything's healthy.
I've actually had malfouf with brown rice, and it's actually very nice. Yeah, I remember Mum did that.
I'm not a malfouf fan, so
it's the best. If you got enough pomegranate molasses in there, that sort of man stuff. If you got enough of that in there, everything tastes good.
Give me shish barak any day of the week.
It's like they say, if you add chicken salt to something, it just
changes the flavor,
changes everything. But the pomegranate molasses does the same thing. With regards to your protocol now versus what it was then, do you still use that sort of what's the word for that type of eating? It's you're sort of navigating the space of food based on how you feel. It's the same with training. Like I've noticed as you get older, you start doing intuitive. That's the word I was looking for. So there's what we call intuitive training. Okay. And I'll give you an example of that. Like you go to the gym and let's say it's a scheduled shoulder day. But I don't really feel like doing a shoulder workout. And if I do, it's probably going to be a half-assed workout. But I know if I do a leg workout today where I'm in the mood to do that, I'm going to get a great session in. The same rule applies as you become more educated and as an experience when it comes to eating. And I've noticed that you do that as well. Yeah. Intuitive eating. Okay, you were doing it for dinners back then. Do you find yourself doing that on a day-to-day basis, sort of navigating the landscape?
Yeah.
I did this for breakfast. I felt like some French toast. I did what I did. Now I'm going to balance things out at lunchtime.
Even if I know I'm going to go out to dinner, I'll be very careful with what I eat the day before or during the day.
Preparing, yeah.
Yeah, because I know that I'm going to eat a bit more at dinner when I'm eating out rather than if I was to eat at home. So I try and plan and
instead of becoming a social misfit and an alien, you just
because I just want to keep my weight. I feel like I can't look at myself in the mirror if I'm not in shape. I struggle to look at myself in the mirror if I'm out of shape.
Same.
And I feel like I've been in shape for how old am I? 35. I've been in shape for the last 20 years of my life or however long. I've never been out of shape.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
So it'd be very hard for me to let go now, I think, now that I'm already in. I had a medical procedure done 2 weeks ago, so I haven't been able to train for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm losing my mind halfway.
Yeah, it becomes like you don't. It's like you don't have access to your therapist.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult.
Yeah, especially going into the office and dealing with numbers all day, every day.
In the accounting space, it would be.
I get up in the morning and I usually go to the gym at 6:30. I train, finish up there, have a shower, and go to the office straight away.
I notice if you do that, you can deal with monotony, and your tolerance for human beings is a lot greater,
a lot stronger.
Like my tolerance for people, if I have not trained in the morning, is very low.
Yeah,
and if you've trained in the morning, you're driving, someone flicks you off,
and you don't want to get on Moodi's wrong side.
Yeah, no, put you to sleep. But if you're driving, someone flicks you off, and you've had a training session in the morning, you're like, yeah, no worries, mate. Cheers, thank you very much. Hope you have a great day. Nothing bothers you. It's it sets the tone, it sets the precedence for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I want to ask, boxing now, how it's changing. It's changed a lot in Australia. There's more promotions. There's more money being thrown into the sport. You've got MMA growing. Do you think boxing has come a long way in the last decade, say, in Australia, and has the quality of the Australian fighter gotten to the point, or it got improved enough, to make a statement on the global stage?
I think recently Australian boxers have been performing a lot better than they have in previous years. I also think there's a lot more opportunity in Australia now because there's more promoters. No Limit got more
Correct.
TV
Yeah,
dates
they're doing a great job. No Limit does.
They've got great shows and they're putting fighters on and so on and so on.
And they're looking after the talent as well.
Yeah, and there's fighters that are in Australia that are doing really well. There's some that are won world titles and so on. More so in recent times than previously. Yeah, a lot of those guys go and do training camps outside of Australia.
That's what I was about to say.
And the level of sparring and training's hard wherever you are. A lot of people, when I used to train in America, a lot of people say, do you train harder in America? I'm like, no, you don't train harder because training's hard in Australia as well. But it's
the sparring partners are
sparring. It's the strategy behind the training and at times you do things. It makes a big difference.
You're exposed to a larger variety of skill set.
Yeah, and if you have a competitive nature, when you go to a gym in America, when I was training in America, the first day I walked into my gym in Miami, I walked into a gym full of Cubans and Dominican Republicans. I was the
boxing since I was 3.
I was the whitest guy there. Nobody spoke English. My trainer and manager walked me in and they said to me, listen, and I said hello to boys there, fighters that were world champions. And I said, hello, hey brother, how you doing? We're in the same team now. They just looked at me and looked away. And my coach said to me, listen, if you want to get the respect of these guys, they come from the gutter. He said, they have to fight to survive. I said, if you want to get their respect, you have to fight to get their respect. He said, you're sparring on Friday. This is the first week I got there. I got there on a Monday. He said, you're sparring on Friday. I said, okay, no problem. He said, you're sparring him. And he pointed at Claudio Moreira. Moreira was #1 in the world. I said, oh, geez. Give me, I said, yeah, no problem, done.
Straight into the deep
end. And if I tell you I wasn't nervous, it'd be a lie.
Yes,
I got there on Friday. And he told me as well, he said, nobody for that whole week had spoken to me in the gym. Wouldn't say hello to me, wouldn't give me any eye contact.
I noticed that when I went to Floyd's gym with Chop. There was
it's just how they are.
Yeah, you were the enemy.
100%. So I got in the ring on Friday and we got to spar. We started the spar and my trainer said to me, before the bell went, he said to me, Billel, if you want them to respect you, make them respect you. Show me. I said, okay. So we went out the first round. I was nervous. First round, I didn't really throw too much. I came back. The other guy came out, he was looking flash, he was doing all right. Came back to the corner. My coach said to me, Billel, do something. Just make him respect you. I said, all right. I came out second round, same thing. I was kind of a bit gun shy. I wasn't really throwing much. Came back after the second round and he kind of just looked at me in the eyes and I said to myself, you know what?
Fight down on your mouth.
Yeah, stuff this on you to go out there and fight. So the third round I went out and the whole dynamic of the spar changed. I pushed him back and I started hitting him to the body and digging. I didn't take any backward step. I stopped boxing. I just put my hands up and started letting go. And we went to war for 8 rounds. And the whole gym stopped training and they watched. Everybody watched for the remainder of the 6 or 7 rounds, whatever there was left. And after the spar, the whole gym clapped. And everybody.
That's awesome, man.
And me and Moreira became very close after that. We hugged it out in the ring after that. It's the first time we spoke. We'd seen each other for a week. We hadn't said one word to each other.
The coach was right.
It was right. And everybody loved me after that because I gained their respect. You have to gain respect in the fighting world.
I noticed that. It's even in doing jiu-jitsu here versus doing jiu-jitsu in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Even in New York, training in John Dennaoui's gym.
It's a universal fighting.
They try to rip you. Like I came in and I'm like, we're from the same team. I was Hein Gracie. This is Renzo Gracie's gym. and all the competitors from the Ultimate Fighter are on the mats.
Yeah.
I walk in, and I remember I had to roll with this. I think I was a blue belt at the time, and I rolled with a brown belt, and it was nice and calm. It was a calm roll. I think he took it a little bit easy on me.
Yeah.
I'd sweep him, he'd sweep me. He probably could have put me to bed if he wanted to, but then I roll with a blue belt because you're a blue belt as well. This dude had tattoos all over his face, took the piercings off.
Yeah.
And within 30 seconds of rolling, and this is jiu-jitsu, it wasn't MMA, I was bleeding from my mouth and my nose.
Yeah.
And then I went, washed the blood off my face and off the gi. And I remember John Dennaoui say, Aussie, he didn't know my name, just knew I was Australian. He said, Aussie, you want to have another crack? I said, yeah, I'm ready to go. He said, you sure? I said, yeah. And I went in there and knowing what to expect. I was being respectful.
Yeah.
But then I realized, okay, being respectful is not going to.
Doesn't work.
Yeah. You need to, they do call it art suave, which is the gentle art, but sometimes it's, you're not allowed to be, you can't be gentle.
Yeah.
With the States, I remember going with Choc to Mayweather's gym. I think he was locked up at the time, Mayweather was.
Yeah.
It was a domestic issue.
Yeah.
And he was sparring, I don't remember if the name was Jay or Ray Leon Love.
Jay Leon.
Jay Leon. Walked in, again, no one talked to us. No one said a word. And Choc went in there.
Very hostile.
Man, I just thought we were going to get jumped in there.
Yeah.
We were going to get flogged. We weren't going to get out of there alive. And then he did well, but for the first 2 rounds, Choc was getting tagged. But then he stepped it up. I've never seen him fight like that. Not even not even on a main event. And he
because you almost think you have no choice.
He gave it to him. I was shocked. I've never seen. I'm like, why don't you do that in? When it comes to the crunch in an official fight. If you do that, be amazing. I've never seen him perform so well when the pressure was on. But the standard of the what they expect, Mayweather raised the bar, right?
Yeah.
Don't agree with his personal views in any way, shape, or form.
Neither do I, but amazing athlete.
Wow. To anyone that does 10 rounds of sparring with world-class fighters that he'd flown out from all over the world, and this is what Aussie boxers and Aussie athletes have to understand. If that's the benchmark, you need to do at least that or more, or don't complain.
The quality is very different.
10 rounds, this was crazy. 10 rounds, then he'd go back to the first dude that he sparred with and then do another 10 rounds with 10 fighters, then do it again. That's 30 rounds.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
But I remember being part of preps here where only the boxer would only do 12 rounds in the last week or two of sparring. It's also then taper off.
Very calculated though. So Floyd has a very defensive style.
Correct.
Other fighters in Australia, I don't want to mention names, older fighters that are retired now, that did that in America, went to America and based themselves in America and had hard sparring and did 10, 20, 30 rounds of hard sparring on a regular basis and now can't communicate anymore.
Because they got tagged,
Because they got hit a lot. So it's just, you can do that under a very smart and calculated
That's why his father played such a critical role in his career.
He's very defensive, very smart.
He called a spade a spade. When he wasn't involved in his
that's right.
sparring, and he was like, you don't get hit that much.
Yeah. So for example, and it's very easy to get swayed into trying to show that you've got big cojones and fight and you get hit a lot in sparring and go to war every single time.
A Mexican style. You hit me and I hit you until we get knocked out.
I've sparred in the States against African-American fighters, for example, and they'll have their friends in the gym with them. They'll bring 5 to 10 friends with them to the gym and you're sparring and they'll be on the corner going, go. They're like, come on, man, hit him. And they're screaming at and you feel like you're in enemy territory.
Yeah.
And then you think, shit, I need to sit down and fight. And then you kind of lose your cool instead of being defensive and smart and intelligent. So it's easy
all that goes out the window.
Yeah, it's easy to get kind of swayed into it. So it's all about intelligent training and smart training.
It can change, like
longevity.
The nature of the environment within the spar can change very, very quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
And as they say in MMA, you punch a black belt in the face, he becomes a brown belt. Punch him again, he becomes a purple belt, and so on and so forth. But things can change. What's to wrap up? Boxing, it's in the past at the moment. Yeah. I'll start that again. To wrap up, boxing, it's a chapter from the past, but it's still part of your identity.
Yeah.
What type of legacy would you like to leave, whether it's for your own kids in general? What are you doing at the moment now to work towards a legacy where people think back and say, I remember Billel, and they have all these wonderful positive things to say about you. What's the plan? Because you're still, although you are retired, you're still very young. Like you're 35, but you look like you're 21, mashallah.
Yeah.
So like, what's the?
I think really, I don't know if there's much more that I could say other than just leaving or having a positive impact on the youth. And I feel like I tried to do that. I don't know how well I succeeded, but I tried to do that. And I still try and do that now. I tried to do that by helping youngsters throughout my career and so on, and being a good role model was probably the most important thing. Just certain things that I would, one time I used to go for runs. I ran every day for 20 years straight, every day. And I remember one time I used to post my runs and I put music in the background of my run when I post my run on social media on a story or whatever it was. And I remember this one time, this person inboxed me and he said to me, hey brother, I just wanted to remind you, please don't get offended, but there are so many young children that look up to you, and
we forget that.
And the song that you're playing in the background is explicit and the lyrics aren't great. And I just thought, I really don't mean to offend you. Please don't take this in a negative way. But, there's young children and so on. Just be mindful.
But that's a beautiful way to approach someone.
And I replied to him and I said, you know what? I really appreciate that. Thank you. And I haven't posted anything like that since. I stopped posting my runs.
Because of the manner in which he approached you. See that nasiha?
Yeah. But because there's young kids looking up to me and there's children that if I do something and then they think it's cool to do that, and then I'm not really being a great role model. So my goal was always to be a good role model to somebody that my children can be proud of, to tell, their friends that, that's my dad. I feel like I have succeeded in ways. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I've got flaws and faults and so on. But
we're not masoomeen. We're human beings.
Not just that, I've always tried to set up something after my boxing career. Because boxers, you can make decent money from boxing, but nobody makes enough money to retire.
Correct.
Floyd Mayweather's made hundreds of millions of dollars in his career and he's still working. So nobody makes enough money to retire. You can make enough money to invest and to do things and so on. So before I retired, I set up the accounting firms and so on. And I feel like I've transitioned from my boxing career into having a professional career afterwards.
Alhamdulillah, that was the goal. That's excellent that you've maintained your brain cells enough to be able to still practice in accounting, because it is important. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. But I think a takeaway lesson, and I'll leave you guys with this. A takeaway lesson would be, irrespective of how successful you become, stay grounded, and don't allow yourself to fall into the trap. Billel, alhamdulillah, myself and a lot of people that we both know have gone into that realm or that part of the world, in that space where success can sort of create the illusion that we're told about in the Quran, but come out on the right side of the fence. Alhamdulillah. We've seen a lot of people go backwards, but we've seen a lot of people come back, and because of the steadfastness in faith, avoid that, because the worst part of success is when the major sin becomes minor, then the minor sin becomes obsolete. So that as long as we still can identify and differentiate between those two things, the fitrah, the moral compass, is still okay. Jazakallah khairan, Billy. Thank you very much for coming down. Inshallah, we have to do this again when you're visiting.
Thank you.
And maybe the next time we'll do it in Dubai, because we have a studio there as well.
Sounds good.
So we're going to continue there. Inshallah, we'll do a second session. Jazakallah khairan for listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.